Tumia kwa boko salama, ulikuwa na weekend safi sana. You had a very great weekend and you're well rested and you were ready to start off the week on the Common Sense edition of the 27th September 2021. And I always tell you there's no better place to start off your week than on the Tackle the Common Sense edition, where we get to talk about life and money. You talk about your life na chapa. Maisha bila pesa is hard small. Haya, ngumu zaidi. Haya, naona ngona maamka mapema sana. Na tayari salamu zako zimeanza kufika kutoka huko Perth, Australia. It's good to see you guys. I request that you join in. Please like when you like, you get to know that you're watching us, and that like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. This is the 27th of September, the Tackle 27th of September 2021. Now unakaribishwa sana. Please come in, like, share, and let us know where you're watching us from. Where are you watching us from this morning? Tuambie unatazama kutoka wapi asubuhi ya leo, ili tuanze kupeana salamu mapema asubuhi. Tuko na Team Kipchumber ambaye nilikuwa nimempea kiti kubwa, lakini ameruka amesema kiti sio yake. Hivyo Team Kipchumber CFO wa Quest Works Kenya, ambaye pia is also a convener of the Mentorton. Kuna wakati nilikuwa naona walikuwa wanazunguka kufanya mentorship ya wanafunzi pale Eldoret and Elgeyo Marakwet, wazingishwa Elgeyo Marakwet. Na vijana sijui walipeleka wapi hiyo program, atatuambia what happened to it, but it is the Common Sense edition, the 27th of September 2021. Please like, share, and let us know where you're watching us from. Kama kawaida, lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe. It's a new week. My friend, mimi nawaambianga maombi mazee. Prayers. Maombi inaweza fanya mambo mingi na badilika kwa maisha yako. Ukianza vitu na maombi, it looks like a joke, but mazee, it sets up the psyche for your day. So, Mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you, glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity that we are live this morning. We thank you for the new week. Even thank you for this conversation that we are about to have. We pray that as we're going to have it, may it add value and edify the fabric of this country. I thank you for the tacklers who have joined us this morning. I pray that you may meet them at their point of individual needs. Kila mtu ameamka na shida zake, na pia na mambo ambayo anataka kufanyiwe. Tafadhali, please meet them at the point of individual needs, and I pray that as we finish, as we start and finish, glory and honor shall come back to your name. For I pray, trusting and believing. Amen and amen. Asante sana. Thank you so much for joining in. Naona waheshimiwa maamka mapema. Haya. Paul Kibiego anasema good morning Gerald, good morning to you. Mitch Karian, Mitch, good morning Bito, good morning to you. William Mwangi, good morning team. Good morning Kigen Kimngeno Ronald. Good morning Gerald, tuned in. Asante sana. Elias Lagat, good morning Tentacle, tuned in from Eldoret. Asante sana to Eldoret. I was in Eldoret over the weekend. Thank you so much for the hospitality and the great time that you guys gave me. Mandago, Governor Mandago, asante sana for hosting us and also for supporting young people doing business. And I always say this, the reason why I support young people doing business is because the more business we can do as young people, if I win, if team wins, if another guy wins, if we have 10 people, young people are winning and creating opportunities, I mean, we can have a better world. Then we can stop relying on government or serikali saidia or serikali kazi. So congratulations pia Dan wa D-Square on your official launch of the executive section of D-Square. Ndio maana unaona nimeng'ara leo hii, mng'aro hatari kutoka D-Square. Asante sana. So thank you so much Governor Mandago for creating an environment for young people to thrive and to do business. I really appreciate as well for your kindness and hospitality while I was in Eldoret. Watu Eldoret, asanteni sana. Mungu awabariki. Thank you so much also for joining us this morning. Dan Dennis, good morning. Bruno Edward, good morning to you, sir. Nani mwingine hapa? GRI Sean, tuned in, asante. Ambassador Alfred Surgeon, all the way from Perth, Australia. Anasema live from Perth, bus by regards to Kipchumber, Lenji ameje electric kifi. Ay. Anatuambia mambo ya kifi. Kokoib Lomeri, good morning. Bito watching live from Marakwet. Have a blessed week. Asante sana Kokoib. Beth Gideon, good morning. Big team, team must love a fruitful week. Tafadhali tafuteni pesa bwana. Monday. Siamkia Jumatatu na siasa. Tutafute pesa. Bruno Edwin, nguo safi kabisa kutoka D-Square. Asante sana. D-Square ndio the only legit kuna nimesikia story unaelewa siku nasema legit business. The only legit dressers, the D-Square. Joash leo kama chief Kipchumber location Nandi. Watu wa Kipchumber mmepotea sana. Kipchumber salimia watu wa Kipchumber. Nilikaa pale Kipchumber, nikakaa Siret, nikakaa Kipchamo, nikakaa wapi kwingine? Sitet. Maze, salamikiani sana watu wa Kipchumber. Asante sana. Siki Kanishas, good morning. Chelagad Mary, morning live from Westlands. John Dicky Wanaina, good morning. Good morning to you John Dicky. Umepotea sana kaka, good to see you. Mungu alito continue morning team tackle. Tuning in from Convent United Kingdom. Good to be part of this morning's Common Sense edition. Asante sana. Lil Koima, kijana wangu anasema good morning tackle, say I to team. Salimika sana. Wana vijana wako wameanza kuanguka mapema. Bruno Edwin Nairobi, Rotich Kenneth, good morning from Marathon Arab Koech. Tuko ndani, asante sana. sana. Boy Child asa falling from Malaba. Dian Dennis Eldoret. Benjamin Bungei morning live from Lavington. Asante sana tu Lavington. Ndio Kara Masharia. Jamaa tuliasol naye tulikula maisha naye Mombasa bana. Kara Masharia. Asante sana, good morning Satika tuned in. Kakife good morning. Philip Kiprono inside. Asante sana ndugu yangu. Isa Gokeka from Dagoretti Corner tuned in. Eda Bunei, good to see you. Madam Eda Bunei, umepotea pia. Ilikuwa tukule lunch kule ndaje Eda. Acha uchoyo. Good to see you this morning. Asante good morning from Kilimani. Asante sana. Ernest Lagat, good morning watching live from Jogoo Nairobi. Terry Larry from Danai, Bomet County, following you guys. Asante Terer Larry from Danai na kuona. Terer and some from Balosi Eric Meja Serege alikuya ni Kakamega County already tuned in. Asante sana. Kipto Hilary, good morning. Just as Wafula Busia border as always tuned in. Dani yellow. Good morning Terer Larry na kuona hapo. Nani mwingine? Anita Chesire, good to see you Anita. Good morning Salimia team. Asante sana. Councillor Tarus anasema good morning brother. Balosi Eric Meja anasema I sincerely think the sprint session of Omanyala needs a manager. A good one. This media exposure is too much, particularly when professional media seem more concerned about his personal life than his career progression. Truth beside, Omanyala has incredible potential and no one should be surprised if he emerges the world 100 meter champion before long. Haya, mambo ya Manyala, asante sana. Manyala has done us proud. Kin Emston falling bold, asante sana. Keja Graphics, good to see you all the way from diaspora. Good morning this evening, asante sana to diaspora. Ben Sayo, good morning from Jerusalem. Eldoret, watu wa Jeru, asante sana. Amon Birgen, kuna siku nilipigwa ngeta bwana. Hiyo barabara ya Jeru. Veterinary. Eldoret. Gopa Eldoret. I've never recovered. Nilikimbia bila viatu. Walininyang'anya viatu bwana. Nikatoka nduki mpaka stage ya 10.
When was that?
2009 or 2010. They're about
2010. Wow.
Yeah. Ai. Wangwana bwana wana huruma. Ai walininyorosha ngeta bwana. Wangwana wenye mlinyorosha pale veterinary. Mzee ifanya mtu mwingine hivyo. Haya, I want to begin. Good morning team Taco logged in from Dallas with Brian Kipkweja. Asante sana to Dallas, Texas. Say hi to my brother Brian Kipkweja. Gan Kimuta, good morning tuning in from Bungoma. Faith Kweja watching live from Tot. Anu watu wako wa Tot. Kipkweja, Kip, good morning Bitok Eldoret. Live Dennis Kibet Mondet mwenyewe Kirui. Kenya is logged in. Asante sana ndugu yangu. Kipchumber Kipwamba, looking forward to hearing more from team inspiring. Man, asante Msikalia. Chairman Menokisha Kettle Deep. Anasema Eldoret na huku niona, huku fika Eldoret. Nilikuwa bwana. Wewe ndio nasikia ulikuwa naiba kura ya dip. Alikuwa naiba kura ya kettle dip. Jamaa anajua. Aya, I'm talking about kura. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, on 4th, IEBC is beginning its registration drive. Tafadhali, I always tell you, your vote is your voice. If you don't have a vote, there's nothing you can participate in. So from 4th, from vote, tafadhali, kuanzia tarehe 4, kama hujachukua kitambulisho, tafadhali, kama hujachukua voting card or you've not registered as a voter, from 4th, please register as a voter so that you're able to shape the direction that this country takes. Tafadhali, enda ukachukue voters card. Wacha nione watu wa YouTube kidogo. Si kama wangwana mamuka pale YouTube. Najua watu wa YouTube ni watu wangwana watakangi pressure kwa muka. Tuko YouTube tayari? Okay, sawa. Niangalia watu wa YouTube ni watu wangwana sana, watakangi pressure na maisha. Haya. Sijui nani ameamuka Jumba, sijui kama Jumba ameamuka tayari. Haya, MCA Clear First Enera Makao anasema good morning from GB live from Annex Center sana tu watu wa Eldoret. Good morning to you guys on YouTube. It's good to see you this morning. Tim. Good to see you, my brother. Good morning.
Morning to you. Morning to you, Vitok. Thank you for having me at the Taco.
Karibu sana.
Yeah,
finally, you're here.
Thank you.
Mwaka mzima. Mwaka mzima ilienda.
A year later.
So what have you been up to?
Thank you so much. So I've been, I've been hustling in town. Nairobi is a town. Mimi ni hustler bana. Baba yangu alifanyia kazi serikali akian only 3,000 shillings. So so I've been working in Questworks, a company we began about 10 years ago.
10 years.
10 years ago. We began initially as a small consulting company. And then slowly by slowly we've now grown to become an award-winning construction company.
Wow, that's nice.
Development company.
Sasa unaweza award winning, itabidi tumerudi kwanza nyuma kwa introduction. So maybe you can introduce yourself to these ladies and gentlemen on the Taco.
Yes. So my name is Tim Kipchumber. I'm a co-founder of a company called Questworks. I was born 450 kilometers northwest of Nairobi in a small little tiny village called Kapkomora, Sambiri location, Marakwet East. Watu wa Marakwet East nawasalimia sana. Marakwet East sub county, Elgeyo Marakwet County. Very, very, very grateful. I went to Chebara on a small, tiny scholarship. Chebara is the place that is supplying most of Eldoret with water.
Nasikia siku nyingine mlikuwa mmesema mtaka kunyonga maji.
Unajua sasa atupate pesa yote tu tunawapea maji for free. So I think that might have been the reason. So yes, I went to Chebara High School on a World Vision scholarship.
World Vision scholarship.
Okay. Very grateful to them. And then got an A-, and that's how I ended up getting a scholarship to Strathmore University. Okay. So wale watu wanakunywa Guinness, nashukuru sana. Guinness scholarship, East African Breweries Cable gave me a scholarship, 1.2 million shillings. Nikakuja Strathmore University. So mara ya kwanza it was the
first time kunywa chai baada ya kupelekwa shule na Guinness. You need to pay back by drinking a lot of Guinness.
Yeah, very grateful to those people. Yeah, so I came to Strathmore. Sikuwa nimeona, I hadn't seen girls in trousers, man, you know. Mara ya kwanza kuja Nairobi. Sikuwa nimeona, you know, huko Marakwet hakuna ladies those days who would wear trousers. The only ladies walikuwa navaa trousers ni wale wenye walikuwa na walk in a bar. Okay. It was almost an abomination. Nasa nafika class yangu nakuta everyone except only one lady who I remember her name. It's just that I cannot mention her life.
Culture shock.
Nilipata culture shock. Culture shock. Actually nilikuwa naenda chapel ya Strathmore naomba naambia Mungu. Sinilete kutoka Marakwet alafu
kunionyesha maajabu.
So it was a very difficult time, man. Alafu nikafanya mistake. Kajaribu kuvaa kama class rep. Alafu nimekuja na green trouser na yellow flower shirt. na yellow jacket. Oh my goodness. He was horrendous. So my friends of course never voted for me. I never looked like them. But I'm still grateful because a couple of years down the line they still voted for me as
after you changed your trousers.
Entrepreneur of the year. Yeah. I still have the
So you did business when you were in school? You're doing business?
No, I didn't do business in school. I was mostly a bookworm, man. Ilikuwa very simple. So every time I got a first class honors, I was the top student. Napewa 25,000.
Wow. Okay.
So it was important that I pass because hiyo time napewa karibu 2,500 kutoka nyumbani for one semester. So it was not enough. And then I had made a mistake. I had a girlfriend at that time. So sikuwa na nini bwana. Sasa nimesema hapa.
Walongi ama ulimtoa Marakwet?
Marakwet. Lakini nashukuru.
Kiingereza ilikuwa kidogo.
Nashukuru nilimuoa bwana.
Huyo ndio ulimuoa.
Kupotea kabisa. Hiyo investment.
Unajua alisema the reason why Kalenjins don't marry within each other because they cannot speak English. They fear speaking English. Hawana nguvu ya kuongea Kiingereza.
Mbaya sana. English haiko mbaya. I've written 2 books now.
So why were you fearing the girls from Strathmore?
No, I mean it's a complete culture shock, my brother. I mean honestly, first, I hadn't seen ladies in trousers. Majority of my classmates were ladies. They were very well to do. They spoke very well. So of course I was a little intimidated. I mean you come from Marakwet.
Yeah.
Gumu. Hiyo Kiingereza sasa ndio tunaanza tu kushika. Si ati hata tumenini. Kwa fluent sana. So you can imagine it was a true culture shock. Actually it took me the whole semester to reasonably adjust, and then the only thing that gave me confidence when the results of the first semester came out, results ya semester kwanza, I was the top student in my class.
Wow.
And not because I'm a genius, it's mostly
because I mean, you could not chase girls. You didn't have an option anyway. You had to read.
Because I needed 25,000 shillings. I needed to pass. I didn't want to lose my scholarship. I've come to Nairobi, so what I would actually do is that I would wake up in the morning, naenda kujifunza calculus, so that I can teach my friends in order to use that as a way to fit in. I now have a friend of mine called Suhura. She's called Suhura Maksud, the wife of our best couple. And I Tim, you should never have taught people calculus for free. You should have charged.
What is calculus first? I think you need to start from there.
No, ile hesabu ngumu kabisa, integral functions. So I would practice that so that I teach my classmates. And but thankfully, after the first semester, I did reasonably well. I came top of my class, so my my self-esteem improved significantly. And then I graduated 4 years later with a first class honors, 3.84 GPA. That's how I finished Strathmore University.
Wow. What were you studying there?
I studied business IT.
Business.
So,
Okay.
and I even did that almost by accident. I wish more young people can be more deliberate. I did that by accident because when they called me to Strathmore University, there were only two options.
Okay. You can get closer to your mic a bit?
Yes, there were only two options. So the first option, ilikuwa big Bachelor of Commerce, I'm a business IT. But then when I looked at the number of people that were interviewing for my course, nikakuta 14 of them wanted to do BCom and the other 6 wanted to do BBIT. So of course I just did quick probability. Nikasema hapa, if I go ahead with BBIT, I stand a better chance at getting accepted for the scholarship. And of course that's the rest became history. So business IT is just computer science and business combined. So that's what I ended up studying. And I encourage more young people, honestly, to go more into courses around computing. We are beginning to see a lot of good careers now in computer science. You know, if you can be a developer, you can write code, you can get decent jobs. I mean, we see now careers in fintech, careers in cryptocurrency, careers in all these that people can earn as much as $200,000 for a 2-3 year old. So I encourage more young people to take that path. I didn't take that path because immediately after I got employed at I interviewed with a number of companies, but I ended up getting accepted I ended up working at Strathmore University. Okay, so but then I go IT. It was just predominantly construction, helping Strathmore building their new campus, their new wing. Yeah.
So moving all the way from IT to now building. Okay. Ukarabati ya Nairobi. Tanisi niuliza nilifikaje kwa studio. Wacha nilipe madeni. Nikurudi tuendelee kutuambia story vile you ended up now started building concrete from doing IT. This is a common sense edition of the 27th September 2021. Na tunaenda masokoni. If you guys want to, you can support us by advertising with us. If you like what we do every single morning and you want to see this growing as well, you want to see production growing, you want to see us doing a better job, you want to see me at least looking clean, nisikufe njaa, you can support us by advertising on the show. Na basi tulipe madeni. Tuanze pale na Maridadi Motors. Maridadi Motors inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuagiza gari. You can own the car in the easiest ways possible through Maridadi Motors. You get to you can import the car directly and you get to save up to 300,000 Kenyan shillings when you import with Maridadi Motors. And also if you have some money that you want to invest, you can invest at the Maridadi import to sell model, where you get to earn up to 15% returns on your investment. Kama kuna hela ambazo umeziweka mahali, unaweza kuweka kwenye biashara Maridadi Motors. You can invest your money on the import to sell model. This is what happens. They get to import the car under your name. Not everyone can sell cars. Not all of us can own cars. But you can also become a dealer by investing your money in Maridadi Motors, and they get to import the car under your name. Alafu basi wanauza pia kwa niaba yako, alafu unaweza kupata 15% ya faida kwenye pesa zako ambazo umeweza kuziweka. Maridadi Motors as well gives you an opportunity to save for 2 reasons. If you want to save for a unit, for a car, you can save 50% of the total value of the vehicle. Basi gari yako inafika, unaendesha mdogo, wacha kunyeshewa kwa barabara. Unaendesha gari polepole, ukilipa asilimia nyingine 50% until you save 50% value of the car. Alafu pia kama una save as an investment, you can save and you get to earn up to 15% returns on your car, on your investment, on your savings and Maridadi Motorcycle. This is only business that ensures that you are catered for all the way. Ukienda pale, kama una pesa, tutakupeleka kwa sako usave pesa. Kama uko na pesa, tunakupeleka ununue gari ama weke investment. Alafu basi mambo yako yanakuwa shwari zaidi. Also Rex Roofing inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba nyumba yako inakaa safi zaidi. There is no other way to build your house than to have a beautiful roof. And I always tell you cannot do your roof twice. Mambo ya kujenga ujenge mara mbili. Na team atakwambia, once you build, you've built. So your house is your legacy and the roof is the easiest thing to see. Watu wakiangalia wanasema unaona ile nyumba ya mabati ya red. Wacha kuita yako mabati. Wanza kusema ile nyumba ya shingles. Yeah, red. I must not contact tiles from Bexa Roofing. And I give you a guarantee that I don't know where you will be in 50 years, but I can guarantee you that your roof will still be there. 50 years, your roof will still be there. So roofing products all the way from Bexa Roofing. Any roofing solutions, waterproofing materials, water harvesting gutters, stone-coated tiles, and also quality roofing shingles. You can get all of them at Bexa Roofing. Bexa Roofing roofs your world. Asante sana. Pia majama wangu wa Peptang, juice iko njiani inakuja, tutakuja tu recharge kidogo. Na tu majama wangu wakimbia tulete recharge by Peptang. So also Peptang must have by Peptang. Kama unataka kufanya recharge, if you're having some, you're feeling low energy levels this morning, you can recharge using Peptang products, that is recharge dawa by Peptang. Haya, watu pia wa airtime pale, if you want to buy airtime, you can go to Swift Airtime KE, enda pay bill number 325325, business number, nambari yako ya simu, alafu basi airtime yako inaweza kufikia kwa njia rahisi zaidi. Kama pia uko na mzigo unataka kutumana zigo, anahakikisha kwamba mzigo wako inafika kwa njia shwari zaidi. Angalia kwenye screen, utaona nambari zao, alafu uweze kuwapigia simu. Alafu very soon, najua team Kipchumber atatupea kazi ya kifikifi. Nakuja kusema hapa mambo. Kifikifi. Haya, if you want to advertise with us, please contact us. You can send me an inbox. Alafu basi tunaanza kuzungumza mdogo mdogo. Very flexible rates, and you're going to do a very good job for you. Asante sana team. Endelea. So ulikuwa unatupigia story. Haya, nasikia mambo yako yanapangwa hapa kidogo. Caleb Tanui anasema go tuned in from Eldoret, always on point. Asante sana Kimutairo Teach. This team is a great guy. Is a true testimony that hard work and determination pays. Honorable Don Betwell Katos and some good show, my brother. Good to see you, my brother, as well. Good morning. Arab Kipchumber. I got some small business in Strathmore Uni through his wife. I'm so grateful and thankful. Team is a visionary individual. Wow. Kuna testimonies zinaanza kukuja. Lawi Atom anasema this guy is a genius. Asante Rama Madiba. Good to see you, Rama. Looking forward to a great show. Asante Nathan Talai. The guy has really motivated me into business. He came to Kenyatta University in 2017. Okay. Hi. Arab Kipchumber say to Team Kipchumber. Mwangi Same Gazman tuned in from Deya Mboroti. Asante sana Edwin Ruta. Good to see you. Edwin, good morning. Na uliacha kutuma kahawa. What happened bwana? Arab agui na wewe Edwin bwana. Yaani uliamua mwezi tupa kahawa kabisa. Haya. Arab Bargetun Caleb anasema tuned in from Dalat. Asante sana tu Dalat. Team.
Yes sir.
You are giving us a story.
Yeah. So how I ended up going into construction. So I nearly interviewed with several companies, the top big four. You know, everyone in my ear those days, you go to the top big four, the KPMGs of this world. But then, you know, my current CEO and partner said, Tim, you're going to get bored there. Why don't you try and then work with us? Okay. So I ended up working for Strathmore University for 3 years. In that 3 years, I did international procurement. I did international supply chain, sourcing. So we traveled to 52 cities sourcing construction materials. 52 cities, mostly in China, USA, and Europe. Yeah, some places in Europe, especially Italy. So that's how I ended up in construction, man. I didn't intend to do construction. We worked there for 3 years. When we finished those buildings, for Strathmore, they won Best Green Building in Africa. Wow. Residential Green Award. And then we saved them 650 million.
650 million.
Yeah, we saved 650 million the following way. One, we saved money from international sourcing. We saved maybe about 200 million shillings from sourcing from abroad. But then when the materials came, everyone charged us a bomb to do the work. So we ended up building a small team to do all the finishes for the state-of-the-art campus for Strathmore University. And then Strathmore also saved about 100 million Kenya shillings because of tax exemptions those early days. So that's how we ended up accumulating significant savings. Okay. We also did something called value engineering. Value engineering is sometimes you're a structural engineer. When they design for maximum safety. The problem with that is that the slabs end up becoming really big. So what we are now beginning to do recently is use a technology called post-tension, which you now see on the expressway, which allows you to have thinner slabs and you use less steel. So that's what we did those early days. We saved Strathmore 650 million. Immediately after that, people got to know that we did that. So they said, could you do the same for us? And that's how we ended up beginning our company. It was purely by accident.
Ukaipa Strathmore.
Tukatoka Strathmore. So your department yote tuka collapse. The full department just collapsed. tukasema, so let's just begin. I had to do a little bit of soul searching. So I asked my wife, what do you think? I'm considering beginning a business at 27 years old. Okay, would you consider, is it okay? He said, listen, if you can pay rent for 1 year, you send me money for rent for 1 year, I let you do whatever you want to do.
Rent for 1 year.
So I did that. I mean, sio masiku nilikuwa naishi Rongai bwana. Lakini nilikuwa nimeandika kitabu, I had accumulated kidogo savings. So I had, I think, like 800,000 shillings. Because I wrote a book, and that book had done so well. About 100,000 kids have read it. It's called Unstoppable, Achieving Excellence in High School and Beyond. Now, I took the money from that and sent rent for 1 year. So rent haikuwa mingi sana, ilikuwa 10,000 shillings per month. 10,000 shillings per month.
So hiyo ni 100.
Hiyo ni Rongai. So tuma 100, I think 120 or something like that.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we only needed that for 1 month. Okay. After that, the business just kept generating. And we got a small, tiny contract.
How much was the contract?
It was 3 million shilling contract.
3 million.
It was supposed to last 3 months.
That is the contract that made you run away from Strathmore.
Yeah, it was just 3 million. Only 3 million. Na ilikuwa finishes. Ilikuwa tu kufanya finishes. Tukasema, the building that we had just finished, since they had just fired us, so we proposed to them that we will help them manage that transition for the finishes.
Okay.
And so now, that's the reason I genuinely believe that sometimes it can be more easier to look for work than to look for a job. Sasa ingine kazi inapatikana. Ile yenye inaweza kosekana ni ile yenye watu wanasema ya kuandikwa. But then if you're really looking for work, like you can do something for people, you can design something for someone, you can do social media for someone, you can you can assemble things, you can install something. I think that you can find work. I think it's a little bit harder to find a job because job inahitaji that someone else has taken the risk. And so that's how we ended up again, man. We began that 3 million shillings, ended up becoming 6 million shillings. Ikakuwa 12 million shillings. By the time tulimaliza the first 1 year, we had hit 60 million in revenue. So
60 million from 3 million.
In fact, from 3 million. Wow. We even, in fact, one of our first clients, the 2 first clients that took a risk on us, and I'm very grateful to them, ni Siginon, pamoja na a hotel called Karibu Inn in Westlands.
Oh, I said in Westlands, on
Wayekwe. On Wayekwe, owned by the Coopers Fox. And it was fantastic what they did. They just said, we like what you do. We are taught a course on Strathmore based on our experience saving Strathmore money. So that's the other thing. I just like people out there listening, please just do some media, people should patronize Trio, people should write online, people should tweet online, people should write on Facebook about the things that they can do, because then people get to know. That's how we ended up, we ended up getting our first clients just because we taught a course telling them what we had done for Strathmore University. So so the first year went well. We saved kidogo money. We bought our first office, and then now we've been at it for the last. So initially we began with nine staff. At the end of the first year, we had grown. We had doubled the number of staff, and pre-COVID we were at about 120 employees. Okay, which I genuinely believe, like you say. That if we can support enterprise, if we can support more young people doing entrepreneurship, we can create more jobs and more opportunities. Because right now, Africa is likely to see more than 500 million people that are jobless. So, instead of just waiting, please see if you can turn a skill that you have into some form of work, because
enterprise,
into some form of enterprise, because and I now really think that the best thing to do is to look for work. Don't look for a job. Ukiona kabisa kazi imekosekana, look for work. Look for anything to do. And then once you can get work,
unatafutanga kazi mpaka kazi inakuwa kutafuta kazi.
Naelewa. I know. There are many people that send me DMs and inboxes, and I know that. And my encouragement to them is that yes, when an opportunity happens, we will consider you, but please do something with the little skills you have. Because time also goes, and you don't want to continually get discouraged at the idea that you don't yet have work. Yeah, so that's how we ended up beginning.
From
Quest
3
Works.
million, from
3 million to 60 million
To
in the
60
past 1
million,
year,
wow.
and we in 2018 we were Contract of the Year, award winning. We were awarded by National Construction Authority as Contract of the Year. We've won top 100 awards. I think we were number 9, and I don't, yeah. And then over time also, as the business has grown, I've ended up getting a bit more attention and awards. I got selected in 2016, which was the toughest year we ever had, to be President Obama's young leader. So a program called Mandela Washington Fellow. So I got a chance to go to the US for free.
Wow.
I encourage young people to please apply for it next year.
From Jabara to the
From
world.
Jabara, and then it was my first time and I got a chance to meet President Obama. So it was a very good experience, and shake his hand. I nearly almost didn't want to wash my hands.
Are you sure you watched it?
I
Maybe
just
you're not
want to
giving us enough confession.
but I had to do crazy things to meet him. I had to climb on top of chairs because everyone wanted to say hello to the fellow. It was a very good experience. I stayed in the US for 9 weeks.
Wow.
And then I had really good friends take me from all the way from take me through 12 states. Good friends of mine, Rose and David, and a couple of them were so excited. They took me around the US. It was a fantastic experience. And it was also intellectually stimulating, and I got a chance to meet more than 50 friends from around Africa. So that was really cool. But then 2018, I also got selected by the British government, British Council, as a future leader member. So I got a chance to speak in UK Parliament, meet 9 world presidents. So that was very nice.
Wow.
Meet Richard Branson, and then learn about policy misuse, learn about communication, communicating for policy change. And because I'm really passionate at the idea that if we can make and create an enabling environment for young people to create enterprise, we can change the world and the country much faster and much sooner. Yeah, so that's how we began QuestWorks, man. It was just like that. We did not have capital. I know many people don't believe it.
Yes, and I think that's the biggest question. Yes, and
we did not have capital.
Right.
We just began with a small contract on something that we had a skill in. So we knew we had already done some work for them, and we had gained trust. So yeah, so at least for the first client, please, do something, do whatever you need to do to gain that first client. Go out of your way, risk something, maybe risk your time, maybe risk your reputation. Because if you can get the first client, that becomes like a referral.
Yes.
That becomes the place where you begin. Because people now start saying, okay, so Stratmo trusted you, you must be a good guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll give you
Umefanyia nani mwingine?
umefanyia nani mwingine.
Then they call and they're like, those guys, they didn't do a good job. Then that's how you lose it. And I think, now that we are even there, what do you think? What's the biggest mistakes that you think startups make? Especially startups by young people.
Startups by young people. I think for a very long time, in the first 5 years of our company, because we now just turned 10, we used to celebrate signing contracts. Now we no longer celebrate signing contracts. Because we found out very quickly that from signing contract to getting paid is a whole science.
It's a very
Ningumu. And people take advantage of young people when they realize that you're desperate for work. People start telling you, you go borrow a loan. The best thing, one of the biggest mistake we ever did was not to be very cautious about payments. And it nearly sank our company. In 2016, we had a 200 million non-payment. It was terrible. I remember that year, if it wasn't for the fellowship, Mandela Washington Fellowship, which allowed me to be seen, and it's being selected top 40 under 40, allowed me to be featured in the newspapers. And then a CEO called, and we ended up getting a 30 million shilling contract and another 50 million shilling contract. That is the year we would have missed the payroll. That is the year we might have had to let people go. And it was just because we signed a contract that didn't allow us to get paid as we worked. that contract say that when the client finally raises funding, that's the moment we will get paid. It was treacherous. So please, I think the first biggest mistake is not being very careful with payments. Any day, if a client really cares about work, they should give you a deposit. They should say, cash on delivery. They should say, okay, give me a discount. In fact, the best thing I tell people now, give them a discount. Give them a really, really good discount so that they can give you cash. Instead of saying, I will pay you 60 days later. I'll pay you 90 days later. Because that 90 days you may not have. That 90 days, because cash is very important. Yeah. Profit is important for growth, but cash is important for survival. So please manage your cash flow. That's number one. That's number one significant mistake, and it nearly killed us. The other one is not really paying attention to contracts. I think it's really, really, really important to take care of contracts. Like write contracts, write them for rainy days. In many cases, I have a relationship with UB Talk.
Yes.
So a great portion of business will happen because of trust. But then it's good to have contracts just for the rainy days. For the day when we are not agreeing. Yes. We need to go back and say, what did we say? If we don't, if I don't fulfill my obligation and you don't fulfill your obligation, what will happen? So you watch over things like termination clauses. You watch over things like arbitration clauses. You watch over things like how to terminate a contract. And what happens when a client terminates my contract? Do I get paid for the work that has been done? Do I get paid a little bit more because now all of a sudden I'm unable to get work quickly? If the client delays payment, do you get paid? At least that covers your cost of money for Kenya. Because if the bank is lending to you at 14%, a client should be willing to pay at least 14% per annum at the very least. And then what happens to you if you fail on your obligation? So contracts are very, very critical. And there are even templates now. FIDIC, I think. FIDIC is one of these French federation standard contracts. You are unable to afford a law. Just you can use templates that are already existing. And for the first couple of contracts, I encourage entrepreneurs to read their own contract.
It sweeps away common sense.
Now we all, and even more important, you get excited when you hand over for the client. They are, and you're handing over, because now we realize that it's not enough to sign a contract. It's not even enough to get paid. It's more important to get paid and then you finish and hand over the work. Because so we used to have, I remember we would have like padre, I mean almost like celebration parties and
at every signing of a contract.
And that's not enough, man. When the client pays, and then you start working, and then that's the moment you can really celebrate.
Which other mistake do you think we made?
What other mistake can I think of? Startups. I don't know. Let me see. Do not underestimate media. I think if you can, if people offer you publicity, if people offer you support, like you are now offering me to tell the story of Questworks and my story, I think people should take it. Media has a way that is a great multiplier. So never just walk alone in the business, but also see if you can work on advertising, on media. And some of the best media sometimes is just you telling your story. Okay, and I've seen that happen because of being featured. When I got featured in 2016 as a top 40 under 40, and I was only 31. Something happened. It allowed us to get 50 million worth of contract that year. Those two contracts, we got 25 million in deposits, and it was the only way we could afford to pay for contracts, for salaries that year. It was the only way we could sustain the company through the year, and start sharing your contract. I'm sure some I'm sure Trio and their tackle would be affordable, and so it can be a good way for entrepreneurs to get started. But even when you can't afford at all completely to buy media, to just say, Bwana Mungu asaidie ujamaa. He looks like a good guy, and sometimes that's what you need, Yeah.
Okay. So does it mean we already have a contract from Questworks?
No, absolutely.
All right, I'm looking forward to signing it. I hope you'll not give me the experience you had. All right. Unless, guys, finally I own a contract from Questworks. The Lord is good. From tomorrow you'll be seeing them. Yeah. Kanyaru, there's something that's coming in from Kanyaru about what you suggested on the contract, and he's asking, what is that French source of contract templates? Spell it out, please.
Oh yeah, so there's a federation. There's if you just search on Google FIDIC is FIDIC. FIDIC. I don't remember now the full name, honestly.
FIDIC. Okay.
FIDIC is a standard group of templates, at least for people that are in our industry. So where you're doing work, you're doing consulting, or you're doing construction work, or you're doing a small plant. Okay. But then honestly, if you feel like, okay, that's a little bit too complicated, you can also just get someone to write to you a 2-3 page contract. As long as you have clauses around payment, you have clauses around termination, you have clauses around defaults, what happens if people default, and then arbitration, so that at least before you go to court, you're going to have some sort of a mediation, you're going to have some sort of an arbitration, and you don't go to court the first day you disagree, to arbitrate. Yeah.
All right. And I think there's something you mentioned, how your business started. And I think this is where a lot of us get stuck. Because you always imagine this grand way of starting a business. Like, guys, I'm starting my business. I'm having a big office, in Kilimani. I'm throwing a party at a 5-star hotel. We're opening business, man. We have money. We have millions of money. Now we're looking for contracts. Yeah. And I think that is where most of us go wrong. You're talking about you starting a business straight from employment.
Yes.
That you've not left with any savings.
No savings.
You're coming out with an idea.
I had small savings, but honestly, I mean, maybe, I don't know if I should use my story alone, but maybe I can just take advantage to use some empirical work of a lady that I really like, a professor called Dr. Sarah Vati, in an article that is called What Makes Entrepreneurs Entrepreneurial. And I like that article a lot. It's just a 9-page article. It's worthwhile read for anyone that wants to get started in business. What makes entrepreneurs entrepreneurial? But the reason I like that article is because it says the best way to begin. The best way to begin is to begin with 3 things. Okay. Begin with who you are as a person. Okay? You are someone. You have certain level of interests, skills, predispositions, excitements, things that interest you. So begin with who you are. And as you do this conversation, what you do is you throw those 3 cycles. The first cycle is who you are. The second cycle, overlapping, is what you know. You begin with who you are, and then you go with what you know. Now, sometimes you don't know everything, but there are things that you already know. There are things that you are able to do immediately. And then number 3, begin with whom you know. Where the 3 cycles overlap. Okay, where those 3 cycles overlap, that's the place you can start your business. I can give you an example, a very tiny example of mine. When we wrote the book for high school kids, we didn't write it initially to make money. I just come from Elgeyo Marakwet County. And I come to Strathmore. I've been in Strathmore. People are laughing at my Kalenjin accent. So I figured I promised myself. Not
just Kalenjin, Marakwet
accent. What are you saying about Marakwet?
It is worse as it gets there. As you go down there.
So I promise myself, these people cannot elect me for class rep, but I promise myself what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them to Elgeyo Marakwet. When I finish college. So when I finished college, I managed to talk to everyone that I could talk to, my current MP at the time, Rotary Club of Langata, my Rotary Club. And then we raised the money. I think I raised 150,000 shillings to take 30 of my friends to Elgeyo Marakwet County to do 2 things. One, to speak to high school kids, but also to see where I grew up in. And when I came back, I was like, oh my goodness. We just met 3,000 kids, but it took us a full week. Is there a way I can generate a book version for that trip? And that's how we ended up with my co-author called Rosemary Kibui, written a book. Now, I just relied more on who I am. Like, what did I care? I cared about the possibility that I could write a little bit. I care about mentoring high school students, and I had a message to give it to them because I had just gotten a first class honors, I got an A-. I began with who I am. But I also began with what I could do, what I knew. And then, when it came to the time to print the book, I just approached one or two people that I knew. So I had already worked with one or two Rotarians, a gentleman called Nick, Bore, and another one, and they gave me 60,000 shillings. That 60,000 made it possible for us to print the first 1,000 copies. But then that was not going to be enough. So what we did, we offered Equity Foundation that we would give our books and we would mentor their scholarship students for free. And that's how, for every year, they kept buying the same books. That's how I began that little tiny business that was just publishing for high school students, and now ended up becoming what we call Mentorton today. But the reason that was powerful for me is that every time I would go to schools in Marakwet, in Uasin Gishu, even in Western Kenya, I would come back after 4 weeks making twice the money that I used to make in employment. So it gave me enough confidence. Now that little tiny project, like writing a book, did so many things for me down the line. It gave me confidence that money can be created. It gave me confidence that you can begin new things. If you remember, I needed a little bit of money. I needed money two ways. I needed money for rent for 1 year. But then the first 1 month, the first year for salaries, it came from my book proceeds. And so, please begin where you are. You know, I tell people now, please begin, fail fast forward. You should begin to fail with affordable loss. You know, something small that you can begin. I have, in the last 2 months, raised just 200,000 shillings to begin a small project to support a huts guy in Marakwet, someone adding ship. Invested 200,000 shillings, and then if that picks up, then we can scale it to more. But then you begin with what you can lose. Now, of course, I can lose 200K. No one wants to lose money, but at least you begin with something you can lose. Your time, you can either lose your time, you can at least lose, you can lose your, what you shouldn't lose is a good reputation. You shouldn't lose a good name. But you should begin with a little bit of money that you can lose. So it's called affordable loss. So if you do a combination of taking action, a combination of beginning with who you are, what you know, whom you know, letting goals emerge. Don't get so fixated about the idea that you must have the grand picture of the business. No. Because you've invested a little bit now, the goals start to come. Many people think that, no, they must have a grand plan. If you have waited for a grand plan, it will never happen. So the best thing is just to begin. And the real best way to begin is to make the first sell. If you make the first sell to a customer, because in the end, what is business anyway? Business is solving problems with a small profit. Solving problems in such a way that what it costs you is a little less than what you get paid for. Would do, and I would tell young people today, please begin where you are. Begin with the spot you are. Begin with what you are
and what you can do.
Yeah, and if another way to think about it, as Jim Collins says, is to begin with what you love. That combination, that nexus between what you love, what you're good at, and what people can pay for, because you need those three. You need what you love, because it allows you. You might be. I mean, I'm sure you might be testimony. If you were doing purely media just for money, but then by persistence, and then what's good. Actually. So that
Niguza vijiko. Wananinyang'anya stock bwana.
What you love, what you're good at, and then more importantly, what people are willing to pay for. Because if you're good at something, and you love something, and people are not willing to pay, we call that an hobby. So people at least have to be willing to pay something.
Yeah.
Something I can that you
people live for the happy days when it's fun waking up, but people really underestimate the power of the days you don't want to do it. I mean, the day you're like, no, I'm not going to do this again. And I think that's what defines you. That's what defines what you do. Like for the days that you don't feel like doing it, do you do it?
Absolutely. I think the mathematical impact of that is something they call the 1% everyday rule. Just slashing on every day, just improving just a little bit every day. At the end of the year, it's just amazing. And I've seen that happen now. People ask me what are the secrets. What are my hacks and secrets for the days I don't feel like it? What is helping me a lot, significantly a lot, of course, is to have faith, is to have at least a loving family. I have 3 sons now. We fell pregnant very early on when I was just 23 years old. So the guy has now become 13 years.
What are you trying to do?
And so family helps. And then now I've taken to exercising. So I exercise every single day. Today I was a little bit too early, so I'm going to have to do the exercise a little bit later. Because then it's already proven that exercise allows you to just feel better about yourself because of all those hormones it generates. And then have enough sleep. You try to sleep, that 6 hours, 7 hours. It allows you. Many things can be cured by sunshine, good sleep, family and friends, and if you can, as I have started to do now, like you can even meditate, so that those tough days don't bring down all your productivity to zero. Ideally, you don't want to eat zero. What you want to do is, even if you feel terrible about the days you feel terrible, you can still make the phone call. And of course, allow yourself, if things really get thick, allow yourself to feel bad that day. Do whatever you need to do. For me, I love outdoors, so I go hiking. I go. If you are in Nairobi, no one uses the park on Tuesday. I found out already that if I go to the national park on Tuesday, I'm just alone. So do whatever you need to do to get through that day, and then the following day, come back again. And you can be certain there will be many, many, many bad days. But the good thing is that the highs are also equally fulfilling.
So there are days that, I'm sure when you're doing business, there's sometimes there's a stillbirth. Sometimes the baby is born and struggling. There are no milestones. Unangoja mtoto hata kukaa chini akae, kutambaa tambai. Unangangana tu. What keeps you going? How much do you push? At what point do you know? Because also sometimes you struggle with something that was never meant to happen. Sometimes you live with something, you struggle with it for a very long time. I must do this. 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, it's not working. And then again, sometimes you give up when it's just about to.
I understand totally.
Just about
so I think in business or startups,
how do you read the signs?
That's a very, very good question, and it's a difficult question to answer because there is no science to it. But I encourage young people to check out a program called Y Combinator School, and it teaches. The problem you are discussing now is something called, one of it is product market fit. At what point do you say my product is needed by the customers? Because if it's needed, then they are willing to pay something, and you are on to something. Because it's only a business when you have found a product market fit. The product speaks to it speaks to the needs of a customer, and those customers are beginning to pay. And so It shouldn't take long, honestly. I don't think it should take more than 6 months for you to know. Well, maybe a year for you to know that people need this product. It shouldn't take long because, and the best defense is to continually speak to your customers and say, if I do this, can you sign the contract? Can you sign the contract that if I deliver this price, you're gonna be willing to pay? So that you push your customers to, as long as you're meeting their needs. So you create an offer. You generally are creating an offer saying, I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3 for you. So what you don't want to do is to create the offer and then walk out. What you want to do is to create the offer and say, Mr. Klein, I'm willing to do 1, 2, 3 for you. What would I need? What would I need for you to sign for me this contract and give me this deposit? And they might tell you something like, give me a sample, or revise the price a little bit down to this price, or show me why that is the best product. So you do whatever you need to do. But the only defense, honestly, is to speak to customers. I think that if you speak to many customers, you quickly learn what problem they have, what needs they have, how your product can meet their needs. And then I think that should allow you to quickly judge at some point whether, in fact, you're doing something that meets the needs of those customers. Because the worst thing also to do is to build a business that no one needs, or to build a product that no one cares for, or to persist in something when you should actually, ideally, be doing something else. And it's now clear, I mean, any really decent business will take about 10 years. For it to be ultra successful.
10 years.
But at least what you really want to do is to know very quickly, at least in the first 1 year, that there is a competitive advantage in this business. There is something I have that my competitors don't have. The customers actually need it. So what I just need to do is to provide for it. I think that speaking to your customers, asking people to quickly start committing in form of deposits and payment allows you to short circuit and know very quickly whether it can take off or not. But sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. When we introduced Workhorse 180, it was a new brand, which is our motorbike.
Yes.
But then we were confident that we did the right thing because the price point was good. We were only selling it for, I think, 140,000 shillings. Okay, for a 180cc. The brake system was not drum brake, it was disc brake, so it means that it's safer. It was a more steady brake. It was a more efficient engine. But then it took a while to get the first 100 sold. Now after that, we've even run out of stock for that 100. Now we introduced a new product, which is supposed to be a Workhorse. So Workhorse is to allow people to do deliveries, you know. You need to take something from this point to another point. You don't want a bike that your rider can carry another person. You just want to carry luggage from one point to another. But that is taking a little bit of time to pick because many people are still understanding the product. So there is a point, as long as you're making incremental progress, honestly, you make progress. I will not take it at that price. I will take
very lastly. Now, you've talked about I mean, I've seen it, I've experienced it, the excitement of contracts. And I lost, when I started business, I think I've lost money ridiculously. I've lost money almost 3 times, I would say. So the first time I lost money is when I just started business. I was in Mombasa, so, I've started this travel business, still employed, but I was on transition out. So, there are these friends you usually chill with. Leo mnapatananga mnashika kakitu pale vione, mnakula kachiri pale what's the name of that place? Mama Ngina,
yeah.
Mama Ngina Drive. Na pale mnapiga kachiri, unakula kachiri, mastori nini. So this guy, good friend, like, oh man, I need tickets. To where? India.
Wow.
Return tickets, jingavi familia, they're going to nini, then I'll pay you. I'll pay you in 30 days. I think that was the story. So what did I do? Because I had a partnership with a super agent. So I told the super agent, give me tickets. In 30 days, you'll have your money. How much? Almost 500, I think 532,000. Wow. At that time. So I did the tickets. I gave this guy, oh yeah, good guy, oh, your friends, oh, good. 30 days, came, went. Another 30 days, ujaenda. Ingine. Hadi wa leo. I've never seen that money. I ended up first of all depressed at that point. I mean, stressed up, not really depressed, but stressed. And I had to think and do a lot of things to ensure that I pay the super agent. We lost the relationship died because this is a business I'm starting. There's no money. It's not like I had any money at that point. So I was just counting on the trust I had with this person that they're going to give me the tickets when I need them. So I could tell people my competitive advantage is I give you credit. Like, I can give you a ticket that you can pay later. It was like, that was an age. So, and the same way I had gotten a trust from this guy, I also imagined I could trust my clients. People I don't know. Because clients are people you don't know. They're strangers. So, that's how I lost money. Because of the excitement of doing business. It feels so good. Like, you're doing tickets. I've just done tickets worth 500,000 Kenyan shillings. That's incredible. I'm Richard Branson, man. So, that's how I lost money. Excitement of having a deal. The deal excitement.
Yeah.
I lost 532,000 at the start of a business.
Wow.
Now, I came again in 2016. I'm just busy doing my thing. So I moved to Nairobi at that time. I set up the business. The travel business was doing well. I came by. Nilisurvive somehow. Nilingangana nikapona. So I did a business. Kidogo nimezubazuba hivi na ngedhia. Some other guy shows up. Ati nini? Nataka niko na kazi. Nimepewa tenda ya kutengeneza hospitali. So, what do you want? I want steel, construction steel, the metals, and I need cement. And I need hardcore, nini, story, nini, excitement of getting into a bit. Now I'm a supplier. I deal in construction materials. Mimi nane. I went to Eldoret. I bought steel from Prayosha. Kanunua steel ya kujenga. Nikaenda, I had a friend somewhere. I talked to the friend. Niaje. You can get me some cement. Akanchukulia sementi. I think from Portland, was it Bamburi at that time. So I supplied.
Kungojea.
My friend. 30 days. Kwanza alikuwa amesema he'll give you a check next week. It's great. Delivery note inakuja. You're filing it. Feels amazing. 4.2 million. Wow. Yeah. 4 days. Niaje ile check niaje. Nimeamua. Hakuna haja nikuandikie check. Pesa inalipwa. Nipe
account.
Nipe banking details. In the next 4 weeks, you'll have your money. It's now how many years?
You haven't collected?
2016, up to date.
5 years.
5 years, right? 2015.
No more.
I think to the end of 2015. More. End of 2015, 2016, thereabouts. It's been how many years now? The 4 weeks have never happened. What happened? The excitement of doing a deal. The excitement of doing a contract. The excitement of waiting for money. The excitement of knowing someone owes you money. 4.2, 4.3 something million. gone under the drain. I had to come back, pay, because I had paid cash for the steel, but I had to come and pay for the cement guy. It was a struggle. Been pushing and all that. So with that again, the trust with what I had with people disappeared. The excitement of doing a deal. And that's what we all live for. When you start a business, you want to do business. Of course, you want to make money. But at what point do you do a kind of a dichotomy between doing business, signing a deal, and sustaining business? I think that is what kills a lot of businesses. And you find that the people who kill small businesses are the big businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how it usually happens. It's very difficult to see a small business killing a small business. It's all brands that you can trust. Like Questworks now would come and I'm like, wow, this brand is good. I can give credit. They'll pay me. Then 2 years down the line, team kidogo hata haonekani kwa street. Kwa ofisi unasikia no, the boss is out of the office, and maybe tayari ashafungua back door office. It's operating from there. Big businesses kill small businesses, and what kills small business, in my own opinion, is it's the drive that we all have. We start business to make money, to sign deals and sign contracts. At what point do you should the common sense come? I saw a meme somewhere that that kiss on the forehead is what takes away the common sense from the girl. Now, at what point do you really sit and choose not to do a deal than close a business? Is there a good credit? Sometimes is there a good credit? Sometimes I compare credit and it turns out well. You have a bad story, just said your story. I just said my story. They've not been good stories. They're not good stories. But can you get good credit? Can you trust someone that will give you service and they'll pay you?
I now think that people should not sell on credit. Mm-hmm. I think that what would I have done differently if I was you? Mm-hmm. I would have said, okay, my friend, I have a relationship with this super agent. You pay the money. Because of my relationship with him, you will get a 10% discount. The only thing that I will do is, for that 10% discount, I will only keep 3%. Yeah? So imagine you are only going to make 20% on the travel agency. The best thing would have just been to say, listen, if you just go to book on your own, you're going to pay 20% more. But if you book with me, you'll save 20. What I will do is that I will save you 10%, and the other 10% I keep. That way, you align the risk, because risk is important. I think when entrepreneurs that are beginning underestimate risk, and risks are real. Yeah, like you see now, clearly, I feel a little terrible for you, because 4.2 million of cement and steel.
Sijaipona. Nikipitanga hapo nikiona nasikia nywele inasimama.
But did you do a contract?
No, what happened is I was supplying a contractor.
So then the contractor was going
doing
to
the
build.
work. But now he was building a government building, the government project. And then I think this guy didn't have money. So he has to use my money to start off his project.
I understand.
So I don't know what conflict they had with that administration. And the business, it collapsed. They had a court case, then, still dragging up to date. So whenever I pass there, I see some remnants of the metal. I see some remnants of the metal. So I refuse. I don't go those sides anymore, because I think they'll kill me. So that's what happened.
Yeah,
So the only contract I had, to be sincere, the only contract I had was delivery notes, which is not a contract, really. That's not a contract. Delivery notes are not contracts. So maybe if I had a contract with closed shares on, what happens if you don't pay me, all these blah, blah things, maybe I could have been a bit safer. I don't know.
I agree.
Do you think I could have survived?
Yeah. That's terrible. Just terrible. And you're not the only one. Government of Kenya owes more than 400 billion to small businesses. So it's not just big businesses that owe money. It's also government that owes money to small businesses and all businesses. So I think that entrepreneurs need to, even as we get excited about the work, we need that excitement. Every founder and every entrepreneur needs that excitement, because without that excitement, you can't knock doors. You cannot, you need that excitement. But I think that we need to temper that excitement. Hopefully, I hope that you get a partner in your business that says, no, but how will we get paid? Why are they asking us to give them credit? Why don't they just get the credit directly from Bamburi?
Yeah.
What is the margin for the credit? What are the likelihoods that? Because in that particular case, maybe what you could have done is to do something like factoring. So you say, just collect a commission. Just collect a commission. It's the lowest money you'll ever make. You might only make like 3%. So you work really hard to help them negotiate good price, and then you just take 3%, and then the guy pays directly. Or just instead of supplying, because also margins in that industry, so like margins in travel, margins in construction, is just like 10% at most. Yes. In fact, for cement, it might be less. It might be 5%.
2%, 3%, 5%.
Maximum 5%. Yeah. And so to be owed for 5% is crazy, which is why you see the large companies, the Bamburis of this world, Apex, and all these companies, they will never give you credit if you don't give them something like a bank guarantee or you have a stable relationship that they can see from the past. So I have this now belief that at least for the first contract, you should never sell on credit because everyone will buy. And so you will never really get to know who is a true customer or a wrong customer. Only give credit when you now have a reliable way to verify that the other counterparty can get the money. Yeah, but the other person, the other business, is they have a rhythm of collecting money. They have a rhythm of paying their bills. Suppliers now can give us 60 days. Some of them maybe 90 days, but only because every year we have paid more than 300, 400 million shillings to those suppliers. So they see us asking.
There's a partnership.
Us paying, But at least for the first few contracts, I don't think it's a good business if people are asking you for credit. Because the reason they're asking you for credit is because they don't want to take credit. So what they are really doing is something in business we call OPM, other people's money. They're trying to use other people's money. And for other people's money, you need to have a mechanism to collect. We've seen these companies like microfinance companies. They have a sophisticated way. The core business there is not the lending. Everyone can give money. It's the collection. So you have to have a mechanism to collect. Either I can charge you assets, or I have a security from you, or
I can come and beat you up.
I have told the other client, or maybe that's also a possibility,
Yes.
Or I have a contract, because the other way you could have done that contract was to nominate, to do contract assignment. So you get the client to sign that on his payment, he will pay you. On your payment, once you supply, he will pay you. He will not pay the contractor. Sometimes that can work. So you do contract assignment, and that allows the contractor to just continue doing the work. But that payment is being done to you, not to. And I have seen many cases where you supply government, and you're not supplying government, you're supplying someone supplying government. So that someone now runs into trouble, and you're not a party to the contract.
Yes, the main contract.
The big main contract. And that can just be a real problem. So I don't think entrepreneurs should be discouraged. I think we should live for that excitement, but I think we should be cautious with money. We should get excited with profit. And the only way we make profit is if we get paid. If you get paid, that's the only time you make profit. So I think what we can do is be less excited about sales, which is the signing of the contract, but be more excited making profit. But the only way to make profit is if you get paid. And so you have to work really hard to put mechanisms in place to collect. And when you can now fully collect the 100% of the check, then that's profit. So I think if entrepreneurs get excited about profit instead of sales, I think that can be a good way to say, okay, the only way I make money is if the full contract is paid and I have fully delivered. So you put mechanisms in such a way that every step of the way, you're collecting a small, tiny profit, because that's really what you are there for. You are there for the profit.
Yes.
You are there to be of service, but you are there to make a small margin. And that margin you need to collect as you go along.
Okay. All right. So, Wangwana, don't rush for the deal. Think about the returns. But also, biashara ni kama kujifunza baiskeli. lazima uanguke kidogo,
Kidogo,
uvunje
yeah.
magoti, ugware magoti, ufanye nini. So you also need a testimony.
That's true.
You'll be also telling people you lost money because you're feeling so good about yourself. Signing a contract. It's part of the business growth. So it'll not warn you. But anyway, try and be safe. Lose money that you're ready to lose.
That's
Otherwise,
true. Affordable loss.
Utakwama. Cheptab Nandi is asking Gerald and Kipchumber, please give advice on how to start up and manage a farm-based project from afar. What do you advise? I think this wants to be a telephone farmer.
I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's terrible. I made that mistake a while back, doing a wheat farming project. And the biggest mistake, which I didn't realize, was to go to Kajiado when it's Narok, when it's raining. You should go to Narok when it's very dry. Oh my God.
Know when to go.
He was terrible because, so we leased the land, 5,000 shillings. We invested, 20 shillings per acre. So that's 250. Very quickly, more than 500,000 shillings. We were projecting to make double the margin in Ghana. I even did some sophisticated calculations called Monte Carlo simulation, where I would say, if the crop fell this low, the crop it was terrible. I think that it will be worse for you if you do telephone farming. I think the only farming you can do telephone, honestly, might be maybe if you have someone you really trust, maybe some animals, because nothing drastically wrong might go if you're just talking beef or goats.
What's it
you have a large farm.
If someone
can steal, but if they steal, then you're in real trouble. But I think the other one is forestry. If you really want to do something passive, then maybe forestry. Or a cash crop, like coffee or tea, because then you just try to arrive there when people are beginning to harvest. But I think these other crops that are more sensitive, they are time sensitive. I don't think it's wise, Chebonandi, to actually do telephone farming. I think it's disastrous. I think those stories just end in tears.
Premium.
Especially because they involve family and relatives. So you end up realizing that the people that you lend your money to are people that are loved ones. And there is nothing you can do. Even when you get angry with family, they will just still remain family. So they have taken the 200K, but there is very little you can do about it.
Yeah, you just accept and move on.
Yeah, so I really don't think people should do that telephone farming. I think that the farming that maybe you could potentially do if you feel like you have someone you completely trust is basically you just support them to become the entrepreneurs. So in that case, the business is actually theirs. What you're just doing is buying
you're
inputs,
getting something from it.
and then hopefully you just get a small return from it. But then for that, you need complete trust, because there's no way of governing that relationship, because you cannot just write contracts with, sometimes people from home, because even if you write a contract,
then what?
you're really going to jail them. You're going to jail your small brother, So I don't think people should do telephone farming. I actually don't think people should do any telephone anything.
It's like telephone
maybe real
building.
estate. You do real estate.
Hey, but even that's more danger. Telephone building. You're in America.
No, telephone.
No,
building
you give someone
is
money, they go to another house which is being built in Jerusalem.
And they take a photo.
Naambia nyumba yako is coming up well. Ongeza tu 1200. The day you come in, you see cinema.
No.
So telephone anything.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why it's better to pay a little bit more to get a credible company to do the project for you. And then, you can have consultants, you can have supervisors and things like that. But the only part that I see real estate might work is just if the building is already there. Like you're just generating rent and collecting rent. And you give that to a property manager, and then the only thing you're doing is that the property manager is making sure that people are collecting payments, and the payments are being done directly to you. I don't think people should do telephone farming. I think it's extremely risky. I think if you really, really want to do telephone farming, you can consider maybe forestry. Because you just go, you plant the trees, it might cost you up to 100K per acre. One day, 10 years from now, you can sell each of those trees for 5,000 bob, you make 10 times. Okay? But then you go once a year or twice a year, and you can treat it like a picnic, which is what many Nairobians and what our city want. They want that one day they feel like they have a farm. But I don't think it's worth losing 300K, 400K per annum just for that feeling. I think it's better that maybe you do forestry. You know, if you have land and you feel like, okay, I have 3 acres that I'm not using it yet, I think you'll be safer, you'll have less attic, because with just 200K, you plant the whole place. And one day you can sell those trees. And it's easier that way. You can survive with telephone farming like that, because you can measure. If the trees didn't come as they should have, but I think it's wildly risky to do, you know, potatoes, to do maize, to do wheat by telephone. I think it's just by principle wrong.
Okay. All right. Stephen is saying, can Tim please comment something about solar?
Solar. That's a good topic. When we began to do a small, tiny solar system for Strathmore University about 11 years ago, we did not have the level of advancement in solar that you have today. We never had. Solar used to cost about $3. So $3 per watt. So they measure solar per watt. A watt. So the standard sizes of panels that are beginning to come out now are nearly 2 times the size in wattage as compared to what we had those days. So solar makes complete financial sense now for the first time for 3 reasons. Number one, prices have continued to go so low. At that time, you would buy a panel for something like 100 shillings per panel. Now, the same panel, not 100 shillings, not 100 shillings, something like 40,000 shillings for one panel that was 250 watt. Today, the same panel can cost you as little as 12,000 shillings. So we've had significant advances in technology, on panel technology. Okay, we have these panels now that are called monocrystalline and polycrystalline. Okay, that are giving you efficiencies of around 20%. So we have advances in panel technology. We also have advances in inverter technology, because solar is made up of 3 main components. Component number 1 is the solar panels on the roof, where the sun hits those panels. Okay, and that panel generates what we call direct current. That direct
DC.
current, DC, is then sent to the inverter. What the inverter does, which is more like the art of the solar system, it inverts or converts that direct current into current that we can use for the phone,
AC.
for AC, alternating current. We also now see significant advances in inverter technology. In the olden days, you could not monitor production per panel. Now you can even monitor how much every single panel is producing. So if we have a panel like 545 watt panel, we can monitor and say that panel is giving us 540 or giving us 550. That is really helpful, because one day you need to change a panel or you need to do something, you know, that's significant. So we've had significant advances in technology for panels. We've had significant advances in inverter technology. And number 3, we now have significant advances in local knowledge. We have just commissioned the largest solar plant in the country, which is 600 acres. Okay, 98 megawatt. Okay, down on that place in Eldoret called Keses. And we've just also recently been awarded 45 megawatts. That is more than 330,000 panels that the Kenyans, just normal Kenyans, young Kenyans, 200 young Kenyans have ended up doing all the work for that solar panel. So for that reason, we now see that if you are buying solar today for your house, for lighting, if you did not buy storage, and that's a very big if, the system can pay back in 3 years. The thing that still makes solar a little bit more expensive is for me and you to put in our residential homes, because then we need to store the power. If we store the power, storage is still expensive. Whether it's lithium or lead acid technology, it's expensive. Gel, those batteries will break down in a very short while. But really good storage technology like lithium is still very expensive. But then, you must have seen now that the country is moving solar. It's moving solar just because it makes financial sense to do solar. And I can tell you why. Today, you are buying, if you look at the best way to measure is to look at the number of tokens that you bought.
Yes.
Take that number of
expensive.
tokens, okay, take the shillings that you spend. Imagine you spend 1,000 shillings. Divide by the number of tokens.
Yeah.
You will get the cost per unit. That cost per unit in Kenya today is about 24 shillings per unit or 25 shillings per unit. Solar, you can generate solar, something called levelized cost of electricity, at 8 bob per unit. 8 shillings per unit, maybe less. Which means that solar is now financially viable. And anyone that is spending, say, 100,000 shillings, 200,000 shillings, 500,000 shillings, and you have a roof space, you should just go solar. You shouldn't even think about it.
Okay.
The only thing that we need to work on a little bit is how much to store so that you don't spend too much money on storage. Because when you spend money on the storage, storage in this case is backup power.
Backup power.
Yeah?
Okay.
Batteries. Batteries are still very expensive. So for that, you might want to say, okay, I only use batteries for this number of hours so that you're not buying too many batteries. No one today can afford to store power for 2 days. It's only the very rich people.
Yeah.
But for you and I and for anyone else that is in the audience that want to say put solar on their roof, I think you should go ahead anyway. The only thing is to be careful how much you can spend on batteries so that it's not too costly. Because batteries cost nearly 1.5 times the cost of solar. So if I do a solar system for, say, 1 kilowatt, which is all you need for an upcountry home, or 1.5 kilowatt for a bigger home, or maybe 3 kilowatt for a very big home in Karen, the real problem becomes the cost of batteries. The cost of batteries cost you more than even the system itself.
Okay.
And so I hope that in the next coming years, the advances in technology and advances in reduction in cost for batteries will make it possible for us to just install solar immediately. But then solar is now a no-brainer. Solar is a no-brainer, and I think in the coming years, it will be one of the fastest growing way to even create jobs. I hope that helps.
All right. But is it a sustainable energy?
Yes, absolutely. Solar is sustainable. Solar is sustainable. I mean, honestly, if you have a system that pays you back in 3 years, and the system itself would live for 25 years, you still have 22 years to use the system.
Okay.
And you can already tell why. You're buying units today, 1 unit, your token at 24 shilling. But solar can generate the same unit for 8 shillings. So I mean, there is enough margin there to make there is enough reason, at least economic basis for solar. And if anyone honestly is seriously considering that, we'll be happy to potentially have another conversation around that, or maybe they can just reach out.
Okay. Yeah. You can reach out if you need any more information about solar. You can reach out to Tim. Kibiwad Vikita Sama team, we are very right up kwa telephone farming. Tumechomeka sana. Salim Kiplimo Samgong says cash crop is much dangerous. Because somebody sells some kgs in cash and the rest to your account.
Yeah,
you
true.
know
That's
there's
true.
these people buying in cash. Trustworthiness is so hard. Okay. Kanyaru is asking, how can we get good contract attorneys in Kenya? Good contract attorneys in Kenya?
Good question. That's a very good question. I think that lawyers generally would draft the contract in the way that their client would want it. So I think that the driver for the contract has to be the client, because it's the client that understands you as an entrepreneur, understand the risks, the contract risks. What many entrepreneurs might lack, they might lack an intimate understanding of the knowledge of your business. They may not understand things like, say, defects. What lawyers will generally master, they will master how to write the clauses. But I think entrepreneurs still need to drive. That's the reason the first couple of contracts, and actually every single contract, I think an entrepreneur should read their contracts. because it's wildly risky to write a contract and then only realize when you finally go to a court that, oh, by the way, we missed this particular clause. We missed this clause on termination. We cannot get paid for termination. We cannot pull out of this contract. So I still think that you can use any lawyer, provided you give them a very good brief for the things that can go wrong. Because we all know what things can go wrong. You know, payments can go wrong. Okay, people can default on payment. People can default on the work. People can default on people can terminate. And if there is a termination, you have to have a series of clauses for what happens during termination. What constitutes a termination? What happens when we finally disagree? Then we need to have a mechanism for arbitration. Who chooses the arbitrator? We need to already decide now as we enter the contract
before
we begin that we will choose the arbitrator this way. It can either be the chair of the arbitrator body, or it can be someone that we mutually agree. And if we don't agree, we will ask the chair of arbitration body to choose one person for us to arbitrate. Who will pay for the cost of arbitration? We say, okay, we will each share our own cost of arbitration. Where will the arbitration happen? Because the last thing you want is that you sign a contract with someone and the arbitration is in London, you know? Suddenly now, it costs you to try to get justice. So you say, okay, I want the laws of Kenya to apply. I want arbitration to happen in Kenya. So I think that I know you need a good contract, and I can recommend 1 or 2 good 3 lawyers that I've worked with. But I think what is more needed as an entrepreneur is for you to spell out the things that can go wrong in the relationship between you and your client. And then now, then the client, the lawyer can just spell it in a way that can stand a court of law. Because really, we write contracts for the rainy days. We don't write contracts to keep looking at them. We write contracts for the days when we no longer want to see each other. And now we already know this now, and it's more prevalent with Chinese especially. When everyone is happy with everyone, people understand each other. But when people are unhappy with each other, there is something called strategic misunderstanding. People don't even understand what you're saying. They don't even understand
English.
Don't know English. Don't know English. Don't understand.
What you say.
What you say. But 2 days ago, the guy will speak very English. You know? So I think that happens to every one of us. Happens to all of us, that one day we reach a place where we no longer disagree. We have to just go back to something that we signed together and say, listen, okay, fine, we disagree, but 1, 2, 3.
This is how you're going to
happen. So that at least you can keep the business going. Yes.
Okay. All right. Meskia. First, even, and maybe you should also increase in the contract, but this person understands English. No English. Hapa ilikuwa nimeona there's something. Okay. Jeptop Nandi amesema telephone farming number 1 X 2 contract farming, surviving dishonored contracts by buyers, millers, and right direction to take sugarcane farmers in plight in the North Rift currently. Contract farming, does it work?
I think some form of contract farming can work if the other party is a credible party. I'm saying that because you do have good processors. You have processors like, you have good companies that have a stable market that they supply. And because of that, you might take a risk and say, you know, I have the farm, they are promising to pay, you might even ask them to give you a small percent of discount, a small percent of cash, so that they can give you cash advance. I think that it's very possible that contract farming can work. I mean, EABL and a number of companies have done contract farming in the past. The only thing I think is that if you realize you really can't trust the other counterparty, then it's wildly risky. And one way to test that, you can take that contract and give it to a bank. If a bank can loan you against the contract that you've been asked to do contract farming for, then it means that they believe that the counterparty is able to take over their commitments and pay you. But I think contract farming is possible. There are 2 variations of contract farming. One is the one where you just offer a service. All the inputs are paid for by the client. I think that's the least risky one. But it also has the least margin, because then it means you are not making that much profit. But then there is the variation of contract farming where someone tells you, I will just buy your maize or your at this price 11 months from now. That can be very risky, because that year something might happen to that company and they are able to walk out. Again, it matters the contract that you sign, it matters the counterparty that is hiring you, it matters the way you agree to payment terms, it matters whatever you agree on to that on those contracts, because sometimes people might even have, they might have specification as to like the size of the potatoes or I don't know, the humidity of the maize or whatever it is that. So you have to be reasonably certain of two things at least. That if they don't come to buy from you, you can still have another market that will be equally compelling. But number two, that you can test that by saying, okay, I've been given the ability to do contract farming for this number of bags per bag. Can I ask the bank to discount my contract? And I take the money and I reinvest the money in the farm. And I think that banks generally are very good at assessing risk, which is why it's very difficult to get a loan from the bank. That they are very conservative. So hopefully by the time they can give you money against a contract that you have for contract farming, you are reasonably sure that they've done due diligence, especially on the other counterparty.
Okay. Tukifunga waliniambia niache kuita kiosk. Tukifunga supermarket. Doreen hapa anauliza, how can team be reached in regards to solar conversation?
Well, I think so also all my social media pages.
Kimbia pale
Twitter.
Social media, bas uweze kupata. And Oritima is saying the most unfortunate thing is that as we go along, the average age of a farmer, age of a farmer is going up and up. Many young people are not willing to engage in farming as a career. Our culture is tailored around graduate to get employed. We need deliberate efforts to create young farmers.
Absolutely.
Incredible. King of Samuda is asking advice on batteries to use on solar panels. With lithium, you said lithium?
I think that lead acid and lithium is good. It's just that the price for lithium is likely to be much higher than lead acid. I wouldn't ask you to use gel, because I feel that unless you get a really good supply, they might just collapse in a year. And you don't want those batteries to collapse in a year. Ideally, you want them to last as long as 5 years.
Okay. Another one here is saying on YouTube, those are what if on the scenario where the test party is not the bank? How can I tell it's a good contract when the bank is not involved?
Good question. So I mean, I use the bank just as a last resort, but then I think you should do your own due diligence on the other counterparty. You should say, why are they asking you to do it? And what recourses do you have if one day they tell you we no longer need that produce? And then maybe you can also interview people that have done contract farming for that company, so that you are not the only one. You are not the only one that is doing it. So I think you can do a combination. You can do a combination of checks. So you can have someone review someone can review your contract. You can interview people that have done contract farming with that counterparty. You can speak to people that will end up paying you. You know, either people in procurement or people in finance, or just to say, you know, what is the chance that you are likely to get paid. I use the bank just because the bank is like the final. But
it's a credible test.
It's a credible test. But the next final place would just be to do your own due diligence. It's just that now you have to rely on your own judgment. To say, okay, so I think you can do a combination of interviewing people that have done contract farming for this company. You can interview the people that are working for that contract company. You can also speak, maybe if possible, to the customers of that company, because that company needs your input for something else. Okay. So that you just find ways anyway, because in the end, what you don't want to do is you don't want to put money and then the money doesn't come back. What you ideally want to do is make sure that again, in this particular case, the real work is not the farming. The real work is collecting that final check at the end.
Yeah.
So you are now taking on 3 more risks. You're taking market risk, you're taking farm risk. Well, your market risk has been removed. What you're taking is a payment risk and then farming risk. So at least just make sure that you will get paid. You know, do anything to, you know, maybe take a payment plan, maybe take guarantees, maybe take payment guarantees, maybe take a bank guarantee from them saying, when I produce this, I don't need to come and ask you for permission to get paid. I just go cash the bank guarantee.
Okay.
Because anything that allows you to get paid, because it would be terrible to do, say, 100 acres of potatoes and then realize that KFC doesn't want to now buy the potatoes from you because suddenly something changed.
Okay. All right. There's another question here on Baizo on business. Talk about business proposal. Is there any secret on how to present it? But I think you'll pick it on it next time. Unaona wakati wetu upo na sisi na lazima tuende tuhangaike tutafute maisha. Tunasema in Nairobi ukikuja kutafuta kazi utatafuta sana. Lakini ukitafuta pesa utapata. Hata kijana ya Marakwet alitoka Tot huko. Alifika Nairobi akapata pesa, akatafuta pesa, lakini kazi ilikuwa ngori kidogo. Thank you so much for coming in. My brother, it's been a pleasure having you. I want to give you an opportunity for a last shot. We call it the tackle of the day.
The greatest opportunity of the next decade is the opportunity to create opportunities and work with young people. And I think we should demand from our politicians that anyone that is going to be rich should be rich having created value. We must start to build an Africa that relies on young people so that more young people can create jobs. And I tell young people today to please go out there, turn a skill that you have into some form of work and into some form of business. And let's persist. And then and I still encourage you, please, let's participate in the affairs of our country. Register to vote. Let's see if we can choose a new generation of leaders in the coming general election.
Okay. All right. So talking about registration, the voter registration drive begins on 4th by IEBC. Ensure that you have a vote. Kibaki alisema kama upigi kura nene. Wani mtu bure. Una maana kabisa. So go and get your vote from 4th. Bure utaito wende mtu bure kabisa. Una maana dunia hii. So that you can have a conversation on how best the country can be governed. On 4th, the IBC begins the drive. Ensure that you pick the votes. Tafadhali, endeni mkate kura. Thank you so much for coming in this morning. I see a lot of questions that have come in. We might not be able to answer all of them, but we'll keep answering them next time. Nakama pia, if you have anything that you want to talk directly with Kipchumber, you can inbox him. Bas, muendelee hapo, bora tu mnitumia ka kitu.
Commission.
Commission, connection. Business legit. Steven, thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure. The guys on YouTube, asanteni sana. And those are ladies and gentlemen on Facebook, it's always a pleasure to have you. I hope this conversation has added value to you. I've always tell you there's no better way to start off your week than the Tackle the Common Sense edition every single Monday. It sets the psyche for the week, and it also will ensure that you have knowledge. Ndio mkianza siasa kesho on the state of the nation going forward until Friday, at least mmejua ka kitu, mko na pesa kwa mfuko. Unajua ule mtu anatumianga kwa siasa ni mtu ana kitu. Tafuteni pesa wangu bwana. Tafuta pesa. This has been the Tackle 27th of September 2021, and it ends now. Bye bye. We love you.